Take Con Air, mix in The Fugitive, and then add a touch of the gray, and you've got the Apple TV Plus original series, The Last Frontier. It stars Jason Clarke, Simone Kessell, Haley Bennett, and Dominic Cooper. But does the story contain enough to fill the 10-episode arc? Frank Remnick is a U.S. Marshal in charge of the quiet, rugged barrens of Alaska, but his jurisdiction is turned upside down when a prison transport plane crashes in the remote wilderness, setting dozens of violent inmates free. Tasked with protecting the town he's vowed to keep safe, he begins to suspect the crash wasn't an accident, but the first step of a well-crafted plan with far-reaching and devastating implications. If you're not cold when you start watching The Last Frontier, you will be by the end of the first episode. This takes place near Fairbanks, Alaska, and it is a desolate and spread out area that's snow, trees, mountains, and then a whole lot of nothing. It's beautiful, but daunting. And the environment, it is its own character within the series, creating some treacherous pitfalls and then obstacles for all of our characters. Now, as I said, this is a 10-episode long series, with the first 2 dropping at once, which they already have, and then to keep the show more interesting and not fall into the weekly case trap that would make it like a traditional American TV show, the storylines, they're way more convoluted and complex, allowing for diverging and intersecting arcs to create some complications. Now, the impetus for the show is a downed prisoner transport plane, where many survive, so there are now a bunch of dangerous, violent, or even just cunning convicted criminals roaming the wilderness in search of their complete freedom. There's also a wildcard inmate that draws the attention of more than the local law enforcement. And when these are then combined with the mysterious past of Jason Clarke's Frank, the plot has then several options to direct the story and prevent it from getting stale. Clarke is great to watch as Frank because he's sort of this haunted man, full of regrets and sadness, but someone who is also striving to correct the past, or at least make some new choices. And he's not fully likable, just thanks to being curt and abrupt, but he does have a sense of honor and duty. So while he may be abrasive, he's also kind of somebody that you want to root for. Haley Bennett plays Sydney, the State Department official who's sent to provide info and then support to Frank. But she's so cagey and secretive that she's instantly questionable. Her mumbly and dour persona doesn't endear her easily, but the character did grow on me as we get more background. I mean, it doesn't fully remove any sketchiness, but my opinion of her did soften the more I knew. And some of the other cast are good to watch as well. Dominic Cooper is a formidable force with just this ton of skills and smarts. Dallas Goldtooth is an excellent counter to Clarke, using patient wisdom along with some tactful snark to emphasize points that add both humor and drama. And then there are the smaller parts from some people that you might recognize, like Alfre Woodard, Johnny Knoxville, Gus Burney, and Clifton Collins Jr. And each of these helps to add some unique stress and then excitement to the intersecting arcs. And to complement the acting, there are some creatively shot action sequences that just had my eyes glued to the screen. There's one in particular that's mainly a one-shot, hurling us around this icy plateau while all sorts of threats are launched in just about every direction. I mean, it was harrowing, but in an awesome way. And while there are some additional scenes that share in the intensity, none match this particular battle, which I thought was a bummer. There's also one standoff scene that had me laughing out loud because of the abruptness. I actually rewound it again because it was just so good in a painful way. Now, I was afraid that because this is 10 episodes that are around 40 to 50-ish minutes, the show was going to just drag out sequences and then the storylines. But for the first 7, the storytelling inserts enough varied action and story beats to keep it interesting without feeling like fluff or any padding. And many of the episodes, they're intense and stressful, using both the foreboding terrain and then the escaped convicts to create some dreadful scenarios. But notice I said the first 7. Episode 8, it's pretty much an entire flashback. And while that is not a bad thing on its own, the pacing and the momentum that had been established took a massive slowdown and then just began to drag with details that didn't need to be as examined as they actually were. And some of the backstory I thought was great. I mean, it fills in holes that shore up certain plot points. But on the whole, this episode, it is a departure from the anxiety and the urgency of the episodes prior. 9 kind of picks back up and creates some unexpected interactions. And then we get to the 10th and final episode of the season. Not sure if the writers just took the day off or what, but there is so much downtime where the story, it's not progressing forward so that it feels like just a huge waste of time. And when you couple that with some blatantly obvious and predictable story decisions, the whole finale is just a disappointment. I mean, I was really hoping for a strong storyline, all the way through. But this fumbles at 8 and then can't fully recover. The story also has a bit of an issue with jumping around in locations, even times. Because of the way the sun hits this part of Alaska during the story, time gets to be kind of an afterthought. We're told there's going to be something like 18 hours of night, but then the very next thing we see is some bright sunlight. It becomes difficult to discern how much time was passing within this world, which then randomly broke the illusion of the story. And the series started out strongly, creating urgent tension through the battle of people versus the elements, then combined with a race against the clock. And while Jason Clarke is kind of mumbly and dour, the grumpy and rough persona works for his character. And despite the excitement that the majority of the season contains, the last few episodes break from the goodness and then delve into predictable drivel, dragging out scenarios and making us question why we began the show in the first place. But even with that massive caveat, this is a stirring action drama. It just peters out at the end. There's sex, a little nudity, ton of profanity, and some brutal violence. I give The Last Frontier 3 out of 5 couches. So if you watched any decent shows lately that just utilize the elements as a character or maybe a foe within the story, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.